It's just the tip of the iceberg. Stay tuned. It's time for business. I'm your host, Sigoa. The Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities has unveiled a 6-month Apes of Uganda exhibition at the Uganda Museum. The exhibition seeks to promote the conservation of apes and primates in addition to showcasing Uganda's potential as one of the top primates tourism destinations in the world.
The Great Apes exhibition is basically looking at fossils and then looking at how the fossils relate to the current apes.
The apes and primates play a major role in Uganda's social and economic development by attracting a big number of tourists to the country. Bwindi Impenetrable Forest and Kibale National Parks in western Uganda are some of the leading great apes tourism destinations globally.
People of Uganda should now know that we have 53% of the world mountain gorillas. 53% of the whole world. Not Rwanda, not the DRC, but Uganda, 53%. And those are primates and chimpanzees in Kibale Forest, isn't it? The largest number of primates in the world is found where? In Kibale.
Despite their social and economic importance, the gorillas and the chimpanzees are endangered and are classified among wildlife species under threat of extinction.
From a tourism point of view, the apes, the gorillas, the chimpanzees brings lots of revenue that this country gets as tourism revenue. It accounts actually close to 60% of the money we get from tourism.
In the recent years, human-wildlife conflicts have become more rampant with severe consequences.
A lot of conflict going on at the margins of these national parks. I think it's really important so that the people adjacent to the parks are taken care of, that they have a way of supporting themselves and also get support from outside their local communities so that they can still have a good quality of life and that the apes can also be preserved. So a lot is up to Ugandans, but I think it's essential that people in other parts of the world provide assistance.
Concerted efforts are therefore needed to promote a peaceful and resourceful coexistence between humans and wildlife.
We must do everything possible not to intrude in the already limited habitat, isn't it, of wildlife, so that the wildlife survives, the human being survives, and the environment also survives, isn't it?
It's on this backdrop that the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, in collaboration with Michigan University of the United States of America, have unveiled the 6-month Apes of Uganda exhibition at the Uganda Museum.
We have the fossils which existed in eastern Uganda, in Moroto, Karamoja region, 20 million years ago. That is Morotopithecus. We have the Ugandapithecus major. We call it Ugandapithecus major because that one is also having more resemblance of the human being. And so we have it also at the museum. That was also showcased, and we have put a 3D screen that is also running for that. And we have other fossils which are ranging from 21 million years to 1 million years.
With a common gene pool of between 97% and 98.5%, the great apes are our closest cousins in the animal kingdom. Other primates found in Uganda include baboons, Patta's monkey, the red colobus, bush babies, and the Uganda manga bay.
Relatedly, gorilla trekking is a premium tourism product for Uganda, and that makes it more expensive than any other tourism product. The high cost for one permit has not deterred foreign tourists from missing the fun. Check this out.
We were like really close to the gorillas, like the small ones, then the big one, and it was so amazing, like being close to like wildlife animals. It was the best experience of my life till now, and I really wish to come back and see them again. Okay, so yeah, we are doing a second trip to the gorillas, a second trekking. Of course, it's not that kind of, it's kind of expensive, but it's really worth it to see the gorillas. You have like 1 hour, and we thought like we are traveling the whole way from Germany. So we thought about it's worth it to have like 2 hours in both trips. So yeah, we try to see another family, new area, maybe something new.
Tomorrow we have a short trip and not so back in the mountain. So, but I hope we see much more.
Come and walk in his footsteps a little bit.
Uganda must consider biodiversity preservation in its industrialization process. According to analysts, this will help enhance sustainable growth and curb the dangerous effects of climate change. The fourth economic Mkutano has been structured around regulatory aspects to do with greening Uganda's industry. Industrialization for inclusive growth is at the center of the country's social and economic growth agenda. As Uganda strives to achieve its industrialization goal by 2040, the importance of government policies around greening industry is paramount.
We do, as Private Sector Foundation, we do encourage our members to ensure that production is environmentally friendly, the entire production value chain, the entire processes. And this doesn't mean just manufacturing, by the way. Even in services, you should ensure that your production process or your value chain of you getting to the service is all environmentally friendly. But there are two things. One, you can encourage the private sector to do that. Private sector is driven by profits. So on the one hand, they can be encouraged to do that, but on the other hand, they should be penalized if you don't comply.
Various stakeholders emphasize the need for recognizing the adverse effects of climate change and the importance of preserving biodiversity in the transformation journey.
Sustainability is very, very important. Actually, we have a criteria, 3-level criteria for granting a license. Number one is, are you going to export 80% of your annual factory outputs? Because we want exports. We are implementing an export-led industrial policy in this country. Number two, are you going to create jobs for Ugandans? Because Ugandans need jobs. Number three, is your investment not going to destroy the environment? And that's why we require every developer, every operator to avail us with their environmental and social impact assessment report.
In addition to sensitization of the public on the relevance of free zones, the Free Zones Authority is urged to ensure industrialists not only set up businesses but evaluate their eco-friendliness.
Free zones are very important in the sense that they cut on costs. As opposed to building up a factory where, like I said, when I'm driving, like going to the west, I actually feel the pain when I see the factories in the homesteads with the 3-phase electricity hanging over the houses, which is actually unhealthy. So if people can be educated, but also working with the local leadership who allow those factories to be built in such areas, people must understand the zones are there for them, they're cost effective, and everything is there, supposed to be there. So it's lack of, I think, understanding on how it works. That's why I see it. Not many people understand the importance of being the free zones.
2023 Mkutano centers on unlocking the green economic zones opportunity for the private sector in Uganda. To the August House, government risks being caught offside in executing a supplementary budget in what Parliament describes as non-priorities in the process to seek retrospective approval of the 3% legal mandate of supplementary request estimated at over 1.3 trillion shillings. Parliament has expressed dissatisfaction over the excess expenditure, seeking for more clarification from the Finance Ministry. Check this out.
Despite the law mandating government to spend up to 3% of the previous financial year budget prior before Parliament approval, the status of the supplementary schedule estimating to 1.3 trillion could put government into a deadlock situation.
It must spend on a purpose that has suddenly arisen, which was not foreseen. Now, if Parliament has considered the matter and found it not a priority, it can't be a matter that arises suddenly as unseen.
Minister of State for Finance, Henry Musasizi, was in the Budget Committee of Parliament seeking for the retrospective approval of the supplementary budget, but in vain.
Parliament declines to appropriate by way of resolution. If you look at the supplementary expenditure schedule before us, it includes very many items that Parliament had taken a position on by declining to appropriate. Now, those matters are before us, and funds were spent.
In the budget cycle for financial year 2022-2023, Parliament declined to appropriate funds for the construction of a convention centre in Munyonyo as the country prepares to host the Non-Alignment Movement Conference. However, government through the mandatory supplementary budget already provided 86.4 billion out of the required 112 billion to businessman Sudhir Rupareila to finance the construction.
What bothers me most is that when we agree as Parliament, Minister of Finance goes and does what we don't agree with. So today we are really disappointed as a committee.
Minister Musasizi defended the construction of the auditorium at Munyonyo Conference Centre, saying it is timely to accommodate over 3,000 delegates expected from 120 member states during the NAM summit due December 2023.
We are not donating money. This is a business venture. We are buying in shares, partnering with Munyonyo.
So you fail to buy equipment for your hospital, you fail to go and do library for your schools, you fail to treat sick people, and then find money for Sudhir to go and expand his hotel. This is ridiculous.
The MPs questioned why government has continued to neglect its priorities, including the recent program of parish development model, placing Parliament in a position of a rubber stamp.
That in the spread of the talk that there was no money, money was put in different areas. Rwampara has no road unit, like my brother has said. To date, until tomorrow, we have no road unit to help our roads. Nothing has been put. Reason, there is no money.
But people in finance are in air-conditioned offices. They don't know what is in this country. We are surprised that there are places in Uganda where our mothers and daughters must walk a lot of kilometers to fetch water.
Shema Municipality Member of Parliament Dickson Kateshumbwa moved a motion to discharge Minister Musasizi from the committee after the MPs found his explanation wanting.
So I move a motion that we discharge the minister and the team until a time when they can respond adequately on the preliminary issues, and then we sit and consider this.
Okay, meeting motion is there. Is it seconded? Yes. The meeting is therefore adjourned to Tuesday next.
Uganda, like most underdeveloped or developing economies, has many innovations and innovators, but the main challenge that limits their growth and development is the failure to register or protect their creations or ideas.
The National Intellectual Property Week is organized by the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, the African Regional Intellectual Property in partners to shape up intellectual property development in Africa.
We want to bridge the gap between the creation or the creators, the authors of works, and the enjoyment in terms of the commercialization. Many people want to utilize protected works of copyright, trademarks, patents, utility models, without paying for them, and yet intellectual property gives the exclusive right to the owner of that work, and whoever uses it must seek authorization or a license or even buy it where necessary.
The discussions by the institutions centered on building effective capacity in utilizing intellectual property for development.
You take ownership by converting your creations into property, point number 1. Point number 2, establish your rights. Point number 3, exploit these rights strategically and responsibly as your assets, very important. Also, publish for peer group recognition. So we are not saying don't publish, do publish, but take care that before you publish that you have actually protected, if it is worthy of protection.
The rights, protected through the ARIPO route, patents, utility models, industrial designs, and trademarks. So on the other mandates, I'll go back a bit. Yeah, a question was asked whether we protect, genetic resources. We are still working towards that. We have a policy guideline on access and benefit sharing.
Uganda has a robust legal framework that allows for the protection of different intellectual property rights, a legal framework that recognizes the rights of individuals and institutions to own and manage their rights. However, the public and who would be beneficiaries of intellectual properties are not aware.
We see a habit of people just wanting to make copies of books of somebody who has written without authorization. That is piracy. People want to copy designs and inventions of other people or other creators without authorization. I've also seen musicians coming up to sing music of artists that have since died without seeking permission. You don't just wake up because you're talented and you replay somebody's song. You have to seek permission because, for example, copyright lasts the life of the person, of the creator, from the date of creation. For example, if I sang a song now or wrote a book now, I will have copyright from today up to the time I die at 100 years. Then after that death, then you count 50 years, even from death. So copyright is like for a lifetime.
The workshop facilitates exchange of information on the status of intellectual property in Uganda, stimulate research and development, protection, commercialization and enforcement of intellectual property. Charlotte Muge for UBC Business.
For over 10 years, the African Center for Media Excellence, a non-profit organization with global partners, have invested significant resources in training local journalists on matters of extractive industry. The Business Roundup caught up with Rachel Mugarura, the in-charge training and capacity building at ACME.
So I'm Rachel Mugarura Mutana. I work with the African Center for Media Excellence and I am in charge of coordinating our training and capacity building programs for journalists and communicators. ACME was established as a bridge between formal education and practice. You know, you come out of university or college with ideas and general experience in journalism, and you reach the newsroom and suddenly you don't know what to do, or you are sent to cover topics that you never thought of before. You know, journalism is primarily an arts-based profession, but you're sent into the newsroom to cover agriculture, health and science and so on and so forth. So what ACME does is to build the capacity of journalists to have the knowledge and skill to do their work. Since 2011, our partnership with Natural Resource Governance Institute has led to the training of 102 journalists across Uganda from all manner of platforms with all manner of experience. And what we have seen, if you're observant, from 2011 to date, a lot of the writing and production on oil, gas and mining is from journalists who have been trained through this program. We don't claim 100% responsibility for that, but we know we've tracked a lot of their work, and some of our best reporters in this field are journalists who have been through this program that ACME has delivered in partnership with the Natural Resource Governance Institute. A journalist without knowledge is not a journalist. A journalist without knowledge to cover the issue, the event they are covering, is essentially a megaphone. It's just saying what somebody else has said. It's just a channel to transmit information. So knowledge, providing knowledge and building the capacity of journalists to understand public affairs is essential. And it goes without saying, therefore, that in an industry that is as highly technical and as new to the country as petroleum and mining, journalists' knowledge of the sector is essential in them providing important information to the public and to provide the kind of oversight and transparency, push for transparency of government that their reporting can provide. Well, ACME runs the Uganda National Journalism Awards, which is Uganda's largest annual award. It is a professionally run award. It isn't a popularity award. It is based on the content and output of journalists over the years. So yes, journalists are recognized that way. We wish and hope that one day this awards program wouldn't be run by a non-profit like ACME, that we have taken it this far. The program has run since 2014, but that the industry would be involved in running these own awards to recognize its own.
And everybody seems to agree that now the debt is constraining us because of the total interest payment and servicing of the domestic debt. We have seen here that the domestic debt is really eating a good portion, 6 trillion in the coming year. That money could have gone to drugs, that money could have gone to paying the teachers, that money could have gone to supporting agricultural farmers, but because of the previous obligation, that has come in as a constraint. Now, we see government taking a decision to say, I will not borrow more. Now, that may be true or not true. It's a good intention, really, if you speak at it from the intention point of view. But the obligation that government already has, which cannot be undone. Now, when you look at them in that space, it's not possible that we are not going to borrow. Because revenue authority is not going to raise the money, and yet the obligations to do are actually already in-house. So it might take a time, maybe another 3, 4 years or 5, to see this tempo go down. But it will also take serious decisions to restructure the government.
On the regional scene, Uganda Railways Corporation has hailed the Tanzanian government for constructing the MV Mwanza that will serve 3 countries of East Africa. The mega vessel with a 400 tons and 1,200 passenger capacity was recently launched into the Lake Victoria waters at a momentous event in Mwanza, a Lake Victoria port city. MV Mwanza Hapa Kazi 2 has been entirely built by the Tanzanian government internal financing through the Marine Services Company Limited at a tune of $50 million. The recent launch into the Lake Victoria waters marks the second of 4 stages of the vessel construction.
Sasa ili kuweza kufanikisha kuunganisha uchumi wa nchi na kwetu tuweze kufanya biashara, hii ni kitu moja muhimu sana. Kwa kuzungumza tu kwamba nchi yetu kijiografia tuko vizuri haitoshi, lakini uwekezaji huu ndio utakuwa ufanye sasa yakamilike yale matarajio.
Hii ni historia kubwa sana katika nchi za ukanda wa ushoroba wa kati. Kuzinduliwa meli kubwa yenye uwezo wa kubeba abiria takriban 1200 ni hatua kubwa sana katika uboreshaji wa swala zima la usafirishaji wa miundombinu katika ukanda wa ziwa kati.
Ni mwezi wa 8 tunakabidhiwa meli. Sisi taratibu nyingine zikamilika za mkaguzi dhibiti TASAC akija kumalizia na kupa cheti cha ubora, tunataka tuanze rasmi safari ya kwanza mwezi wa 9.
The 400 tons mega ship, one of its kind in the region, is expected to ease further the transport of goods and passengers in the region. Uganda Railways Corporation, a government entity that provides logistics, freight and solutions for exports, imports and local haulage within the region, has hailed the new development.
Central Corridor, the critical path on Central Corridor, the bottleneck has always been the ferries.
the vessels across the lake. And this is being cured by this development. So it's a welcome development in the region. It's going to bring the cost of doing business. And I call upon our counterparts, because this is not in isolation. Tanzanian Railway Corporation, Tanzania Ports Authority, and it's not stopping on the central corridor only. It can also feed into the northern corridor. If you're talking about Kisumu, you're already feeding into northern corridor. So it's a welcome development within the region.
However, this now calls for the speedy rehabilitation of Uganda's major ports for ease of docking and passenger transport.
They will visit Port Bell, do an assessment. Currently we have a link span, but the link span is for freight. Yeah. Now how do passengers disembark? But remember, at Port Bell, other vessels dock at Port Bell on the sides of the quay. So you will find that assessment will be undertaken by the team, but obviously at the point of design, this was considered. Remember, MV Kawa, Pamba, Umoja, Uhuru, all of them can dock at Port Bell, Jinja, Kisumu and Mwanza.
Upon completion, MV Mwanza is expected to serve 3 countries of Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya and ply the Mwanza, Bukoba, Kimondo, Jinja, Port Bell, Kisumu and Musoma ports. Dennis Sigoa for UBC Business. As we come to the end of the show, we leave you with a few tips on how to work smarter. First of all, make a weekly plan, finish what you start, and have a clear routine. Otherwise, thank you for being part of the show. I've been your host, Dennis Sigoa. Let's catch up next week. Bye-bye.